Yeah, and speaking of culture, because again, hip hop, all these things, I have to talk a little bit about the Kendrick halftime show. What were your thoughts about it? How did just in general, like what did you think when you saw Kendrick performing on the biggest stage?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was screaming very loudly at the TV, so it was really difficult. We had set up a whole thing about it. Like my house, I have always, me and my wife and my son, we live in a woke environment, right? And I mean that in the greatest sense of what that word means to those who actually understand it. Awareness. So we've always loved Kendrick Lamar from Section 80. From
Yep.
if you're listening, I'm putting up everybody put three fingers in the air, high power, like because I was writing about how important this man was then. You know what I mean? So to see him on that stage and to see him win when we all know Kendrick wasn't supposed to win.
Mm.
That's why the uproar is there. We've seen this story before. The conscious rapper never wins. He wasn't supposed to win, right? But the issue is, right? You can't. I can't remember which rapper said this, but the frauds are winning, but we will win by keeping it authentic. You can't destroy something that is real. When it's like one of my favorite quotes I wrote. Everybody sounds smart until the real smart people show up.
Mm.
Right. So I love Drake. He's a skilled person. He or whoever is writing his stuff. He's a skilled person. I've been using his captions on my Instagram forever. Right. He's a skilled person. I hope he bounces back and makes the kind of music that he can. Right. But there's a difference between someone who is imitating something and someone who is really of something. Right. It's just and it's nuanced. It's like when someone says, "Oh, that person's black, but I'm black." Right? You know what I mean? Like people want an explanation for that, but it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? It's unnecessary because if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? And so Kendrick was not supposed to win, but when you come up against something so authentic, dog, I mean, what can you do? He's touching all bases. I mean, the performance is even so masterful. It is not as beautiful as something that Prince would create and what Prince created,
Yeah.
but it is artistically as powerful when you think about the fact that he does this with no backtracking, all breath control, design and influence it all. You know what I'm saying? Down
Yeah.
to the smallest minutia, down to like literally old PlayStation codes being put in at the beginning of it. Like he Drake can't contend with that.
No,
That's
that's
why he
funny.
just said. That's
Yeah.
why he just said on the new album, "I'm trying to get the party lit." I bet you are.
He said, I gotta get back to the basics. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get back to my R&B party.
Yes,
I used to
yes,
tell
you
my
should.
yeah, I had a friend. I was like when I was in high school when Section 80 and all that came out. So I was like, all right, Kendrick's the best from the time that happened. So again, I feel vindicated to see that he's continued to evolve. And
Mhm.
that's nothing against Drake. I think sometimes
Nope.
it has to feel like it's Kendrick versus Drake, but they're both talented. And I look at it. Kendrick won. You know what I'm saying? Exactly what you said. And it is what it is. And it's all the reasons you said. It's the authenticity. It's the writing, the time it takes, the I want to win your heart before I win a Grammy. Like all the stuff he used to
Mhm.
say for so long. You saw that on the main stage. And then you being from Mississippi, you understand it from like, Big Crit and some of those people who could have been as big as any of those guys
Come
in
on now.
hip hop, but they
Yeah.
wanted to stay true to themselves and to see someone like Kendrick who did that and was still able to get to the top of his craft anyway. It's
And
just
that's what I mean
really
by that.
cool.
Like he wasn't supposed to win. This country celebrates mediocrity. You know what I mean? This country celebrates mediocrity, right? So like that's why people are very upset about it because he wasn't supposed to win. They should be able to say, "Oh, Drake has sold so many records." Like, that should work because it's worked before.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so if you read Claire Dieter's Monsters, like she talks about how people are personally wrapped up in the people that they're fans of. And so the people I'm talking about can't say what you just said. They can't say, "Oh, well, I like Kendrick and Drake." Oh, no, 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 no. It's either or. And not my hero. He can't be defeated. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a great time. So to answer the question emphatically, I was absolutely pleased.
Yeah, and so as you know, you write, you're a writer, you understand hip hop. I think, and you do a lot of media when it comes to conversation and journalism. Can you talk about like the current state of hip hop, like both from like a music perspective and journalism? Because I think across the board, journalism has changed a lot. So I'm
Mhm.
curious to how you think about it, how music and hip hop specifically is being like chronicalized in this sense.
Yeah. Well, I hope that and I am excited to I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I was talking to some young guys who just came through who were just so galvanized by the performance. You know what I mean? And for so long, one of the reasons the big three is important in general is when I first kind of like was really on the hip hop scene, even though conscious rappers weren't as hot as like say a Lil Wayne, there was still a lot of space for them. You know what I mean? There was still a lot of space for like conscious rappers and rappers who are actually trying to like pin together stories, etc. You know, Common was eating like B was like blowing, things out of the water.
Oh yeah,
Like Common was eating, Lupe Fiasco was eating, Kanye West was eating. There were so many people for people, it was backpack. Drake came to us as a backpacker. Like
yeah,
if you know hip hop, you know he came to us before he goes to Jay Prince and Jay Prince says, "I'm gonna put Lil Wayne all over this mixtape and this is how we're gonna make you big." He was a backpacker. We're talking room for improvement, et cetera,
Nice
right?
Wonder. Yep.
You know what I mean? And so at that point, it felt like it was room for everyone. Like people knew that, that these people could like eat and they could kind of make money on their own. And then like for a while, when trap became this new version of what trap music is, it just became really hard for folks to kind of break. And that's why it only seems like it was Kendrick, Wale, Sean, Drake, and that was it, and J. Cole, right? And everybody else, hopefully you can get a show at the House of Blues, you know what I'm saying? But there was no space, you know what I mean? There was really not enough space. And so I hope that that means that there's more space because I think it becomes even more important that artists answer the call of Nina Simone and take political stances because it's not going to be given to them in schools. And as time kind of goes on, the school systems, that's going to become normal,
Yeah.
right? Like it becomes weird to talk about Black history in 3 years after 3 years of it not being a big thing. You know what I mean? It becomes weird for you to do that. And so I hope that a lot more rap artists answer that call because they definitely have the ears of the youth way more than these educators do. And there's not, and I just don't think our generation is doing a good enough job of mentoring them in general. And so the rappers have their ear. In terms of journalism, oh my God, I think this is a scary time, because everybody's got to kiss the ring. But what makes me feel good is like the work that we're doing at Baldwin with the Baldwin and Co podcast, where we're putting these intellectuals together and we're producing this type of intellectual content. But what also gives me a lot of hope is seeing like folks like Don Lemon on TikTok with a whole report, like he's still on TV doing his thing, giving it out to the masses. Seeing folks like that, like, okay, yeah, I'm leaving, CNBC, yeah, I'm leaving this, but I have got to scratch this itch. And so I'm going to get on live
Yeah.
every Wednesday at 3 o'clock and deliver the news in the way that it should be delivered. I am just, I'm very excited about those types of resistance,
Yeah.
but I am such a student of history that I know that we don't maintain that long. And so any way that I can help maintain that, because racism for me is permanent. And so our resistance to it should be as well. We should not be reactionary. We should be working on Project 2028 right now. They're not going to stop. Just because we are all under the impression that white folks are gonna be okay with letting that man not do a third term right now, as time goes on, it's gonna feel a lot more likely that he might stay for a third one. And even if he doesn't, they already have who they want to replace him. So we need to be proactive, not reactive. We don't need kudos to everyone boycotting Target and talking about it on Meta, who also did the same thing that Target did, and who's also, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we talking like today, the big thing is I don't want to be on. I'm on a Meta app saying I don't want to be on fan base because I don't agree with that owner said. That doesn't make sense to me. Either you're like on or you aren't. Like, what are we talking about? And furthermore, again, we need to be focused, like I said, on Project 2028. We have much. This is a much bigger problem than let's take the money out of their hands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is an attack on all corners. education, financial. This is an attack everywhere. And so our resistance needs to be that same way. And I'm not saying that kudos to all the folks on the ground that are doing that work. You know what I mean? But I want us to all be galvanized in that way. We are we are doing such a good job of teaching our kids Black history that it doesn't matter that they're taking it out of schools.
Yeah. And I think also when you're an educator, so I'll lend to you too. I also just think when it comes to history, you just tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like history already has enough information that you can just tell the truth. We had Sharon McMahon on and she was talking about Little Rock Nine. And most people
Hmm.
know from the Little Rock Nine, they integrated the schools. When we teach it in school, we end it there, right? But there's a
Hmm.
whole part of the Little Rock Nine where they weren't able to integrate, and so much so that the fact that the governor at the time canceled school in general for both black and white schools. So it's like just tell this, if we tell history just how it is, people can then say, okay, I agree with this here, I can agree with this there. George Washington had this, he also did this. You know what I'm saying? Then we
Hmm.
just tell the honest truth about history and let people decide either way they like it or not.
However they like it or not. So I'm definitely with that. I love that. And it becomes we have to be stewards of that truth when there is when there is a specific effort to erase it, right? We can't waste our time fighting that effort to erase it if we ourselves are not engaged in preserving it, right? So like I mean, there are books all in here, right? So my plan is to both, now we both need to resist it, but we need to be active preservers as well. So I want it to be like a freaking bastion of Black history for folks to be able to ask me anything and for me to be able to respond at any time with something like that. Because just to be Black in America is to be political. You know what I mean? You are a political reminder of all of the terrible things that this country has done. So that's why it's important to erase your history. But I think it is also important to not only resist that, but to also preserve it yourself. You know what I mean? So yeah, and like people like, like I said, like Don Lemon doing that work. Every time I get on TikTok and I see him doing that, there's other journalists that are doing that work who have left their networks, who are standing on business, but who also are still preserving the culture of journalism in a climate where it is definitely under attack.
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I
definitely. And we all end up being journalists in a way because again, you have your platform, Bookham has its platform. We talk to different all types of people to get a better
mean?
understanding of the world. If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.